I admire your work as an artist. How much input do you have on your album covers? Would you consider designing your own? That was from Matt. Or Matt X. Or is it a Kiss? If it's Kiss, thank you, Matt. If it's an X, then Matt X. I have 100% artistic control over my album covers. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love art. One of the biggest, since we started, and I've got to thank you for the way that you've responded to this podcast. It really has been amazing, really positive. But two of the biggest requests I've had have been, can I look around your house? Yes, we'll do a house special where I'll take you around my house and look at all the little bits and pieces. It's a funky house. A lot of you have been talking about the orbs that we can find that usually fly past me. So I'll do you a house rundown at some point and an art rundown. I collect art. I love art. And so, yeah, of course, I would always have 100% control over the art. Would I ever design a cover? Well, I like artists too much for me to want to do a cover, because there's always a new artist that I want to work with, or someone that it would be fresh and new, because I've admired their work for a long time. So yeah, I don't want to do my own artwork, basically. I've done some artwork on the new album, inside the new album, because I hadn't picked up my paints and pencils and stuff for years, and I'd never done work on canvas. So again, one of those things, I like doing things that scare me, so I thought I'd do this, because it was scary, the idea of doing your own artwork. I did do a cover. It was only an EP, a 12-inch, but it was a Caffeine Bomb, the original Caffeine Bomb with the head exploding and all the daft stuff coming out. And I've always really been at the collage and like the Dadaist kind of stuff. I mean, guys, Dadaism was the first punk rock, surrealist, before surrealist actually. So I've always been interested in art, collages and things. So I did some of that, but I did do a miniature version of one of these for Caffeine Bomb. So I have done my own art. I really just don't want to. And when you have people like Conrad Keeley, who does the Trail of the Dead artwork, I really can't, nor do I want to compete with someone with that kind of skill. So yeah, I'm such a big fan of art. I usually go with artists that just flatten me. And long may it continue. I've been really, really lucky with artists, most of which have been really nice. I worked with one of my favourite artists, Frank Kozik, who wasn't very nice. I won't go into that one right now, but that was funny. I fell out with one of my favourite artists, but, he was a bit of a prick, so I don't care that I fell out with him. But a lot of the artists that I've really appreciated and really respected have been gorgeous. They've been amazing people. And if we do an art special, I'll go into my loves and dislikes of artists. Maggie is adorable. Have you always had dogs, and would you consider getting another, or is she an only dog? I don't know. I don't think I would get another dog. Oh, that's from Joe. I don't think I would get another dog. Who knows who's going to go first, me or Maggie? Hopefully together. I often think that we're going to both do a Thelma and Louise and just drive off the edge of a cliff somewhere. But I would never get another dog, I don't think. But yeah, I've always had dogs, and she is an only dog. I look at Maggie like a wife, and, would you get another wife? I think, who knows? I'm going to be with this one forever. That's what it feels like anyway. And this is from Tannerman. In a different world, if you were just a guitarist in the Wildheart instead of the singer-guitarist, who could you see being the singer? God. When we first started, I wanted a singer who was a cross between Robin Zander, Steven Tyler, Jake Burns, and probably Steve Albini. And I've kind of ended up being like that, with me mixed in. That's who I'd see as a singer. I mean, someone like Robin Zander. I also, if I had a singer like Robin Zander, I could write anything. I mean, that guy can sing anything. If there's a melody ever of any range, that guy can hit it. I wonder how it would have inspired me as a writer, though. Would I still be writing with the same excitement? Would I still be writing the same kind of lyrics if it was for someone else to sing? I can write lyrics and see myself singing them, but, would it change for the better? I don't know. But I can honestly say that I don't really think about other singers singing my stuff. I used to have fantasies about wanting to work with people who would sing, like Maria McKee or Steve Earle. And I can't really see myself wanting to do it anymore. I've kind of got my own thing now, and can't really see anyone really singing my songs. This is from Jace. I watched your free podcast. I saw the Orbs. Have you ever felt or seen anything else odd in the house? Well, Jace, yes. Ever since I first came to this house, I knew that I wanted somewhere in the countryside. I wanted somewhere really remote, and I found both in this place. And I was going to move anywhere. But I walked into this place. I walked into this main big room. I will show you one day when we do the house tour. But I walked into this room, and the energy in the room hit me straight away. Well, again, we'll go into this in more detail when we do the house tour. But the energy hit me in this room. It was bizarre. I'd never felt it before in any way that I wanted to live. There was parts of the house that just felt like energy vortexes. It got me. I just thought, this is my house. And it was like the house welcomed me. Now, this house is, over 200 years old. So, this house predates 2 world wars. It welcomed me. It threw its arms around me and just said, just come in. We've found each other now. I felt a lot of great energy in this house, but I don't really believe in ghosts, as in people walking through walls and stuff like that. I think that's just more stuff that we've invented, but to probably ease our loneliness and fear of death. But there is an energy in this house that has definitely given me a test, if you like. Okay, I'll say this one story, and again, there's tons of these about this house. I've got tons of these funny little stories, but I came in this house with way too much negativity and anger. And that's what I came here to get rid of, to focus on all of the things that were ruining my life and beat them. And I was getting really frustrated with my phone. And it was just, when I get frustrated, usually on the phone, Maggie knows. She'll tell me, or she'll run in the other room and put her ears down. I was starting to get driven mad, probably arguing with people on fucking Twitter or some bullshit. Anyway, I put my phone away. And I went to bed without my phone. No way am I going to take my phone to bed. Came up in the morning, went looking for my phone where I always put it, and it wasn't there. I went looking for where I put it. Maybe, if I'm tired, wasn't there. I looked at every place in the house. I couldn't find my phone for 3 days. And there was loads of things I needed to do on the phone. I couldn't find my phone for 3 days. Eventually, it turned up underneath my pillow. Now, I'm an insomniac. Where's the worst place that an insomniac could put their phone to keep them awake is under their pillow. I know how ridiculous this sounds, but I can't stress enough that I would never, ever, ever, ever put my phone under my pillow. I may as well have found it up my arsehole. I didn't put the phone under the pillow. I found the phone under the pillow. I don't know what went on, but my phone went missing as I was about to go insane. And I found it in the last place in the world I would have put my phone. There's a lot of weird things happened in this house, like funny little things that aren't spooky. They're just weird. And they're just things that you'd never normally expect to happen. Examples that there's something going on in here, or there's something in here, there's an energy to this house. And now it makes me realise now that there's an energy everywhere. There's a bigger world going on around us that in our simplistic 3D mode of operation, we can't access it. Our mind can't access a 4th dimensional existence. So whatever's going on in a 4th dimension is going on all around us, which is why you can see the orbs. There's something from a different dimension coming through here. And if you imagine, if you could go into a 2-dimensional world and stick your finger into a 2-dimensional world, anything living in that 2-dimensional world wouldn't see a finger with a human being joined onto it. It would see a big round thing coming into your finger nub. And that's what I think orbs are. It's just, that's the part that makes sense in a 3D world. That's the part that we can see in this dimension is an orb. But whatever it's connected to is just as big as the 2D world would see the tip of our finger as a big round thing. And that's what the orbs are. Well, that's what I think the orbs are anyway. So yeah, there are lots of weird things going on in this house. Lots of weird things. You said you live in the middle of nowhere. Do you ever get lonely, or do you love it 100% of the time? Is there anything you miss? Mike C. No, there's nothing I miss from society. Nothing. Absolutely not a thing. There's tons of things that I'm glad I'm not around. And I wasn't in a good place when I was living amongst a lot of people, because people wind me up. People's intolerance, people's ignorance winds me up to the point where I'm not very good. It's not healthy for me or them. I never get lonely because I've got Maggie. I love it here. 100% of the time I love it here. It's sometimes it's inopportune that I'm not next door to a shop, but it also means that I can't run to the shop and get a bottle of whiskey when I'm pissed off. So if I want a glass of wine with my dinner, I've got to plan it in advance. So it's like taking myself for a dinner date. I look out the window and it's just the most beautiful view. And it's just constantly changing with the seasons and with the weather. I go for a walk and there's wild animals that are accepting me into their world. And I love it. I absolutely love it. There's nothing that I miss about society. In fact, what I try and do is take everything that I learn from nature and I try and include it when I go back into society. And it's working some of the time. I'm not 100% there yet, but I'm a lot better. Nature has been the making of me. Living out here has been the making of me. And I never, ever take it for granted how medicinal it is here. KK asks, what is the last album you bought? The last album I bought arrived yesterday, actually, and it was this one. The New Pornographers, bizarre title, In the Morse Code of Brake Lights. It's one of those albums where when I got into the New Pornographers on an album called Twin Radio, and that was the instant one. And this was the one that was hardest for me to get into. Which is why I can't remember that title. In the Morse Code of Brake Lights. Obviously not a very catchy title, but it was one of the last ones that I got into because it's a weird album, and I love deep cuts on albums, and I love albums that are a bit more challenging. This one's really challenging because it's their psychedelic album, but by psychedelic I don't just mean it's 60s psychedelic. It's just really weird sounds, really weird vocal effects, really unique textures, whilst getting out of the limitations of classic pop. So it is, for me, it's classic pop, but it really does push the boundaries and push the patience of the listener. Again, something that I love. And I played it to death last night. Probably really pissed the neighbours off, but that's what they kind of expect from me being a musician. I love my neighbours. When I first looked at this house, my neighbours came back and went, it was between me and a few other people who was going to get this house. My neighbours said, are you going to make a lot of noise? And I was just like, well, if you want someone quiet, I'm definitely not the person. You should probably give the house to someone else. And they came back and said, oh, we really appreciate your honesty. You can have the house. I haven't let them down because I do play a lot of music. But this album is just, it's up there with my favourite album of theirs now. Twin Radio is the more accessible and the more immediate one. But this one, if you want to go deep dive into a band's creativity, I love albums like this. They make it all worthwhile for me. That was the last album that I bought. I didn't even buy it. Someone bought it for me. Are there any guitars you would still like to own? Any you regret getting rid of? That's from Chris. I don't regret getting rid of any of them. I buy a guitar. I love it for a while. If it spends too long in a case, I don't believe that it's mine. I believe in getting rid of it because it might be someone else's favourite guitar and I'm not even using it. I don't believe in guitars sitting in cases. I really don't. I don't regret getting rid of any of them. I think it's a worthwhile thing to do. I don't buy them really to keep. I buy them because I like them. And then I play them and then someone else likes them. I still do want, though, a Guild S200 Thunderbird. And it's a bizarre shaped guitar with tons of buttons and switches. Anyone knows me knows that I like my buttons and my switches on guitars because I just think they look good. And this one looks good. It's black. All the hardware and the buttons are silver. It just looks like it looks like it's designed on a car design from the 50s and not a guitar design. But I want one. I'll probably get one. I'll probably play it for a while. It'll probably stay in a case for a year and then I'll get rid of it. But that's my next one, a Guild S200 Thunderbird. And if anybody wants to buy me one of those, thank you very much in advance of your kind offer. Will we hear any more Ginger Wildheart solo projects? And that's from Dan. No, I can't imagine so, because like I say, all of the stuff that I write kind of is me, you know, and so I want to take all of the stuff that I like and put it all in the Wildheart. That will piss a few people off that want the Wildhearts to just sound like Sucker Punch for every song. I can't write in the same style for every song. So will I do another solo project? I can't say it. Never say never. I've learned that in my long and storied life, but right now I can't see why. I want to put it all into the Wildhearts. Let's turn it around. If you could ask us, your fans, something, what would you ask us? And that's from Days. D-A-I-S, Days. What would I ask you? God, I have no idea. I'm very self-aware, but I've got no idea of what people think of me. I really don't have a clue what people think of me. So I would ask you to describe me in 3 words. That would be my question to you. Describe me in 3 words, but don't just make them nice, you know, annoying, you know, angry. Whatever your thing of me, I would ask you to describe me in 3 words and be brutally honest. Honesty is the only language I care to speak in nowadays. Describe me in 3 words. That's what I would ask you to do. What bands do you think produced great albums in their later years that often get overlooked because people consider the band's earlier albums to be classic? And that was from Brawny. I think tons of bands make their competitive stuff later on in their career, because I think really good musicians do get better and really good bands do get better. Sparks being a prime example. You know, I mean, Sparks are still talked about as being this town ain't big enough for both of them, which is great. Don't get me wrong, fantastic song. But Sparks continued to make some amazing albums. My favourite albums of theirs are Angst in My Pants and Womp That Sucker, both of which came at the end of the 70s, turn of the 80s, and people don't really talk about those albums. And then later on, they had albums like Hello Young Lovers, Exotic Creatures from the Deep, Hippopotamus, A Steady Drip Drip Drip, all of which I think are just as good as their early 70s stuff, which they're still seen as being their classic stuff. But Sparks get better. Their lyrics, my God, Sparks' lyrics get a lot better, because Sparks' lyrics have always been amazing, but they just get more nuanced with his age. His take on things is maybe a little wiser than it was in the 70s, where in the 70s I think it was going for clever and funny, and now includes philosophical as well. I think Sparks' current stuff, I'm a little bit torn on the current stuff, but you know, from their stuff from their 2000s I think has been great and as good as their other stuff. Veruca Assault made an album called Ghost Notes. I think is every bit as good as their early stuff. Belly did an album called Dove, which I think is as good as their early stuff, and that was like 2015, 2018. Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of bands come out with great stuff later on in their career, and so they should, you know. Writers should get better. You know, I don't understand how writers run out of ideas. Book writers don't run out of ideas. Painters don't run out of ideas. Why musicians get shitter, I have no idea. In fact, you know what? I go as far as to say, I think one of the contributing factors to musicians getting worse is success. Because you see a lot of bands who get successful and the quality drops. They get a lot of money and the consistency drops. Don't know what that's about, because I've never really had a lot of either. Yeah, I have no idea why artists get worse as they get older. Surely they should get better. Who knows? You tell me why that is in your comments, and please put lots of comments, because I love reading your comments. Thank you. This has been really good. Left out a bunch of questions because we ran out of time, but I'll keep them all in a pile and I'll answer them a bit later. But for now, thank you. This has been me. I'll see you around, and I'll see you next time. God bless you.